Hi everyone, it's Mike here. So don't forget to click that subscribe and bell icon to receive a notification each time I upload a new video. Hi everyone, it's Mike here. So while I was at Mum and Dad's last night, I was reading through Karen O'Brien's book on imaginary characters, how to draw imaginary characters. And there was a couple of characters in there that I kind of like the look of, but there was also some other characters I've seen that had a similar kind of look to some of the ones that Karen had drawn in her book, but they had the kind of faces that I kind of liked. So when I got back from Mum's this morning, I kind of sat down with a pencil and I did a little bit of a quick sketch drawing. Now this is kind of a character that people have seen, they've done similar kind of ones in the past, but I thought, you know, I'd like to try and recreate myself. So I sat with a pencil and tried to draw this. So what I'll do is I'll just switch over to my overhead camera and show you what came later. So this was the pencil drawing that I did when I got back from Mum and Dad's. Literally I was just sat there with a cup of coffee having a chat to Ian, and I was just sketching. Now I've gone in and just darkened the lines a little bit and taken off some of the grey graphite that I'd rubbed off on the side of my back of my hand, just with a white eraser. So after I'd kind of cleaned it up a little bit, I thought what I need to do with this now is to scan it. So I brought it upstairs into my craft room, put it on my scanner, and then did a scan. So once I brought the scan in, I kind of had a fiddle with it a little bit and just added a little bit of detail on the flower, and then decided that I didn't like it, and then thought, well, I just need to clean the image up a little bit. So I went round the edges, I went round the face a little bit, cleaned the flower up, cleaned some of these sketchy kind of lines up a tad until I got to this one. Now that's a lot cleaner and a lot nicer, and this is the one that I'm sticking with. So what I did then, bearing in mind you can see the difference in size, so I have enlarged it. So I've now created this as a transparent PNG, which enables me to then be able to load my printer up with vintage book text and print directly onto the vintage book text. Now I did that one, but I also did that one. So I did that one on music paper, kind of caught a little bit, so it's a little bit smudged with the ink, but that's fine, that can just be used for later. But this one was great. So I've got enough room there now to be able to either stick this down as is and then colour and paint that one in, or or I could bring in my art journal. So this is the Large Dilutions art journal. I've already stuck down a sheet of the Tim Holtz paper into the background of this one. Stuck a few pages together as well in the journal. That's it. So literally I just cut a full-sized sheet from a 12x12 and then just stuck it down with matte medium and then went over the top. And then I printed off my little odd character again on book text, but this time I cut him out. And then we've got the basis for a rather cute art journal page. So that's what I'm going to work on now. So the first thing that I need to do is to get this glued down onto the background, or I need to obscure this a little bit first of all. So what I'll do is I will put the kettle on, decide whether I'm going to put gesso over this first and then stick it down and then start colouring it in, or what. I'll decide what I'm going to do, and then I'll be right back once I've got a cup of coffee and the resources out that I need to do what I want to do. Okay, so I've decided I'm going to put some gesso on the back. You'll have to excuse the noises coming from the bedroom as well. There you go. Somebody's vying for attention at the moment and he ain't getting it. So I'm going to, so we want around about from there to about there. So I'm just going to add some loose gesso strokes. Just go around I know people always go, oh, why are you covering up the background? Because that's what we do. We put lovely big backgrounds down, lovely pattern backgrounds down, and then we cover them up. Okay, so we've got, obviously this will die down into the background once it's dry, and I can always just add a tiny, tiny, tiny touch of water and just loosen that up at the bottom so that it does kind of feather out a bit more with that water, and I can just grab a kitchen roll. There we go. Dunk that into water, dry that off, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so the white gesso is down in the background. As you can see, it's kind of, you can still see the paper behind it, and I need to work out where the kind of center point of the page is going to be. So it's going to be pretty much where this flower, the center of this flower is. So that's where I need to make sure that if I'm putting any paints and stuff down, that's going to be like the center, the epicenter, if you like, and I work my way outwards that way. So I need to put a mark on the page. So all I'm going to do is just put my pencil just above the paper, whip that out, and then there, look, that's the point where I need to be. So that will get covered up eventually. So I can put my little character to one side, and then I can start adding whatever colours that I want to in the background now. So I want to add some colour washes. So I want some acrylic paint, but I want some watered down acrylic paints because I don't want them to be totally opaque. I just want them to kind of like wash into the background. So I've got my mixing palette there. Just move this over to one side. It gives me plenty of room to play with. And then I'm going to grab some paint, and then I'll be right back. Right, so the colours I've chosen to work with today are from the Americana range. I've got pistachio mint, I've got coral, I've got peacock teal, and I've got orchid. Now, I know this is a purple, and if you've been following me for a long period of time, you'll know that purple is my least favourite colour. Somebody recently commented on one of the videos saying, for somebody who doesn't like purple, you certainly use a lot of it. Yes, I do, and that's deliberate, because I don't like it. It's one of those things. It's not like aversion therapy or anything like that. I don't particularly like purple, but I make myself use it because otherwise I'd be cutting out a huge spectrum of colours from the available colours that I want to use in my art journals. And just because I don't like it doesn't mean that others, other people do like it. So, it swings and roundabouts. And it's like cooking food that you don't like for somebody who does. You don't do it for any other reason because it makes other people happy. And I know that kind of goes against the whole grain of art journaling, but I like to see a nice broad spectrum of colours in my work, and I'm not going to cut one colour out just because it's not my favourite. I hope that kind of makes sense. So anyway, I'm just going to put a little bit of green into the background. So like I said, just washes. Now I can see this green. I'm hoping that the camera is picking it up, but it may be just a little bit too subtle for the camera to pick up just yet. Let me just add a little bit more of that down. There we go. Might be able to see that a little bit better. So we've got a little darker spots of the colour just in that background. Subtle, not overwhelming. That's exactly what I was going for. So I'm going to do a couple of layers of this, different colours in different areas. Because they're only thin washes of colour, they don't take long to dry at all. So next one, I'm going to add some coral. This time I'm going to just use the same brush, I think. No, I don't think this is the same brush, there's a different one. I've got a couple that are still sitting in my water. I'm just going to, so that's the centre point. I'm going to dry brush a little bit of that coral colour over. So dry brush, dry brush, dry brush. So I'm using a combination of horizontal and vertical brush strokes. That'll do for the coral. That'll do. And then I'm going to bring in the blue. Let's wash the brush quickly. And then a little bit of water. It's kind of a strongish colour. Bearing in mind that's the centre point of the page. But because I'm using watered down paint, it's going to stay kind of translucent. Because they're inexpensive, you don't really have to use a lot. There we go. So I'll get that dry. Okay, so I want to bring some of that green back in. So I'm going to start doing a little bit of mark making with that green. So I'm going to pull out some shapes that I've got. Do some circles. Some solid circles, and then a bit slippery. Oh, look at that. Hey. That's a good one. Now, bearing in mind that my character is going to be sitting about there. So create a little bit. Oh, it's as slippery as egg today. Luckily, it's not falling face down. Okay, so that's the green bits done. So I've now got, strangely as it seems, I've got the top of an old deodorant tin. That's the same colour as the paint. How cool is that? And I'm just going to add in a couple of those just around just to kind of mirror a little bit. That's better. So we've got a circle towards the top there, so this kind of mirrors that kind of image or that motif. That should do. You don't really need to go too mad with mark making. You can literally just put very, very subtle marks on the page. And again, you could use stencils, stamps, whatever floats your boat. Okay, so talking of stenciling, so I've got my Mid-Mod Motifs #1 stencil, and I'm going to add a little bit of paint at the bottom using that orchid colour. Just make sure I've got it shook up, all shooked it up. Well, look at that. I don't remember having one of those on the others. Is that a new thing? It's irritating. Oh. I'm having one of those days today. Got dropsy, keep dropping everything, knocking everything onto the floor. I think everything I've touched has broken today. I'm frightened to death to go to the toilet. Right, where's that stencil gone? Right. Ta-da. Sponge. So just to add a few kind of lines around the bottom. This will also help to ground our little character. And then I'm going to add a few of those up here, coming down. Not really a purpley purple this, is it? More of a pinky purple. I can live with that. And then I might just do one coming up this side, just to kind of balance it off. Yeah, cool. And then we can just place our character back down. There we go, you see? Even better. Even better. Okay, so let's get this cleaned up. That dried off, and I'm resisting the temptation to add white for the time being. I'll get that cleared off. Okay, I'm going to add some stamping to the page now. So I've got my Tim Holtz Stampers Anonymous set watercolour, which is the butterfly. So I've taken 3 and I've put them down in a strip onto a large acrylic block. This is the Dilutions journaling block. And I've got my potting soil archival ink. And I'm going to just ink up these stamps. So these butterflies are not kind of like crisp images of butterflies. They're kind of sketchy, watercolory kind of images, hence the name watercolour. So I just want a hint of this kind of image in the background. So I'm just going to put it about there and just give it a squeeze. And I'm not really bothered about getting perfect impression. In fact, the sketchier, the better. There we go. That's fine. And put those back on the laminate. And I think actually I kind of like that heart. So I'm going to add some of that on there as well. But I think I'm going to put them about there. Again, not bothered about getting a perfect impression. When I bring my character in, it's going to sit like that, which is cool. Me likey. Okay, so I just need to give time for those stamped images to kind of set and gel. So I'll be right back. Uno momento, as the saying goes. Right, now the background pretty much all dry. Still see elements of that paper coming through, which is really, really cool. We've got the stamping, we've got the layers, we've got the green in the background, we've got that nice purple, the turquoise. It's all looking really, really colourful. So now I want to glue down my main character. So to do that, I want to try and do it so that I've got no bubbles or wrinkles. So this is going to be a bit of a delicate operation. So I'm going to add some matte medium down onto the page. I'll just go right over. Bearing in mind I've used all colours and resources, mediums and stuff, which are permanent when dry. So I'm now going to paint the back of my character with the matte medium too. I've already added some on to the page, but because I'm adding it to the back of the character as well, theoretically, or so people tell me, it shouldn't wrinkle or bubble when I place it down onto a surface that's already got the matte medium on, if that makes sense. So it's like having a double coat. So turn that over, drop it down like so, and then very gently get some clean kitchen roll. And that, there's no wrinkles in that. And now I can just go over the top. And that theoretically, because it's got it on the back already, shouldn't wrinkle or bubble. And I did print this off on my Epson printer, so the ink shouldn't run either. So this is the Epson WF 2630, it's the Workforce 2630. And it has the Dura-Bright ink, and I get asked this question a lot, so I'm answering it again, just in case you were wondering. So the Dura-Bright ink, which is permanent when dry, it's got resins in it. So my character is all stuck down, and there are no bubbles and no wrinkles, which is a miracle in itself. So because I've used matte medium over that, I should be okay to actually start adding colour over the top of that now without having to worry. But just as an added precaution, I'm going to add a layer of clear gesso over the top of all that. Just so that I know for definite that I'm going to be okay to add colour. So I'm just literally going to give it a quick coating. It won't affect anything because it's clear, but it's a ground, so it will also help if I want to move paint around. But it's a ground for the colour to grab onto. A primer, if you like, if you don't know what gesso is. Hello, Mr. Bentley. He's just run upstairs to come and see me. I'm not even sure what time it is. Is it time for a WLK yet? Oh no, not yet. It's still far too early for that. Did I miss some there? There we go. Okay, so now I've got a coat of gesso, which also will dry back to a matte finish. So that shine you see here will all go once this is dry. And again, like I said before, some art journal pages are 5% colour and work and play and 95% drying time. Okay, so everything's nice and dry. I've got some indigo blue portrait paint in Fair, which is a light and kind of Caucasian skin tone colour. And I'm just going to grab a small brush, put some of the paint out here. Now, don't roll. And I'm going to add just a little bit of water, not a lot though. And I'm going to kind of build up a layer of like an acrylic wash just on the face. And if I think it's too watery, I'm going to add, listen to the attention seeker, I'm going to add a little bit more paint to it. I'm bothered about seeing the words coming through all that much on this, because it's kind of just like a background coat, first layer if you like. And I don't mind going over the features either, like the eyes, because I can always go back over again later and darken those up with a fine liner pen or something like that. Now I've deliberately not given this character kind of Hollywood lips, big kind of trout face pouty lips. I wanted to kind of keep it fairly androgynous. So it could either be, by design, male or female, depending on how you wanted to finish it off. You could, give it red lips or just give it pale lips. Draw in a moustache if you wanted to. So just build up the colour. Listen to him. Attention seeking. I don't know who's worse sometimes, him or Ian. Ha ha ha. So just keep on working it in. And then while it's still a little bit wet, you can introduce a little bit of shadowing if you want to, or a little bit of rosy cheekiness. A little bit of shadow maybe. Just a tiny bit of detail. And if you think you've gone a bit too far, just grab your other paint, blend it in. Beauty of doing this while it's still a little bit wet is you can work on your detail. And I'm by no means an expert at painting, but just being able to get that kind of little bit of extra detail. You can always wait until it dries. I'm ignoring you, dog. Add a little bit of darker colour just underneath, like the little hoodie. Hush up, child. Little monkey. I think I've gone a little bit too far with that. I'll just go back in with a little bit more of that fair colour and just blend it back out. Because we've got that gesso on the page, we can get these kind of nice blended kind of effects. Now if I want to, if I'm okay with those colours, I could just literally come in now. And pretty much leave that like it is. To me, how much detail I want to put in. Right, so let's just leave that to dry for a minute. I'm going to go and beat Bentley senseless, keep him quiet, and I'll be back in a few secs. It just goes to show that sometimes you completely lose yourself in doing this stuff. I actually started just adding a little bit of shading with a black Derwent Colour Soft pencil, like so. Just a tiny little bit of shading, just add a little bit of dimension to it. Totally forgot that I hadn't pressed record. So, whoops, sorry. So I've not really done that much, apart from just add a little bit of shading around the outside of the face. I also realised that I hadn't painted in the hand down here either. So the reason I picked up the pencil, the black pencil, was just to go back over some of the lines that I'd obscured with the paint. And then, of course, one thing led to another, Your Honour. And next thing you know, I'm adding in all the detail around the face. Just completely and utterly lost myself. But that's what happens. It's not about the end result, it's the journey. So I completely lost myself in the page. It's great escapism. A real cathartic kind of exercise. I'll just put a little bit of that shade in. This is the, I don't know whether I said what colour this was. This is the Apricot Blush from Indigo Blue. So I'll just add a little bit of that shade in under there and on those fingers there. Just blend it in. That's it. And I can always add some more shading later on with the black pencil. So face, hand, let that dry for a minute. So I've got a couple more coloured pencils. I'm going to work on the flower now. So I've got yellow ochre and pale orange. These aren't watercolour pencils, these are just normal pencils. So it's everyday lots of pencils. Because nobody says you have to use just paints in your art journals. Doing a mixture of paint and coloured pencil is just as valid as any other. So literally just adding in some of that colour. Oh, I forgot to mention as well, obviously I've created this image as a transparent PDF digi stamp. If you are interested in purchasing this digi stamp at this size, obviously, that you can enlarge or make smaller to do exactly what I'm doing in your own art journals, then you can find it on the website or on my website now. It's there. I thought, well, I might as well do it while I'm thinking about it, rather than mention it and it not be there and you want it, kind of thing. There we go. So there's the orange going on there. You can always add highlights and stuff later. Right, the reason I've coloured that in the orange is because I'm going to go over it now with the mid-brown. So kind of make it look a bit more kind of sunflowery like. There we go. Then I can add some highlights later. Alright, so I now need a little green colour just to run down the stem. Like so. And then I'm going to just colour the eyes in a really pale blue. Just so that it kind of mirrors real nice kind of sky blue, and then I can bring in another blue and just add in a little darker colour towards the top. I'm not going mad with like extraneous detail, but as long as we've got kind of a two-tone eye, I'm happy. Now, there's also a white grey here, so I'm just going to add a little bit of white just into there, just to knock the whites of the eyes back a little bit. There we go. If I wanted to, I might do still later, just come back in with one of those Signo white pens and just add in a few details, which I probably will. So I'm actually going to just add the final touch to this now. Seeing as I don't like purple, I'm going to finish off with purple. And I'm just going to add in a couple purple bands across those ears. Only as an example of, just because you don't like a colour doesn't mean to say that you don't have to use it. Why not? Life's too short. Right, I think I'm going to just leave everything to dry a little bit, then I can come back in and just add the final touches. I'm not painting the body at all. I'm going to leave it as that book text, because I think if I start adding colour into that, it's going to be too big and too blocky. But having the face and the hand and the little details there, I think, is enough. So that's all I'm going to do for now. So like I said, just let that dry on its own for a bit, and then I'll come back in and just finish off with those detail bits, as I said. Okay, so white Signo white rollerball thingy pen. Start that one again. Signo Uniball broad white opaque rollerball pen. I know, it's an absolute mouthful. So what I'm going to do on this is I'm just going to add in a couple of white dots, and to make sure that catch light in the eyes stays as is, nice and bright. And I suppose I could just add a little highlight on the flower. Just to say we've had one, and then maybe a couple of little highlights on the eyes. And I don't think it needs anything else. I think that's fine. I just want to add in a little bit of ground towards the bottom. So for that, I've got my Faber-Castell Artist Pit Pan. This is raw umber. So I'm just going to add a little bit down there and then just blend it out. And that's just going to create a little bit of ground just for the character to stand on, just so it doesn't look like it's floating in space, seeing as it doesn't have butterfly or fairy wings, even though there's butterflies in the background. And just to get rid of that, otherwise I'm going to end up getting myself in trouble. I can just add a little bit of kind of light shading, if there is such a thing as light shading, as opposed to weight rather than light, as in spectrum. So not heavy is what I'm trying to say. Not heavy. And so it just disappears, just blends beautifully into the background. And you can build it up. That's it. I'm not going to do any more apart from I'm going to just write a little bit of journaling. And all I'm going to write there, up here, hopefully this isn't going to smudge or anything. In fact, let's just make sure that I'm not going to smudge anything. And I'm just going to write it. What day is it today? The 9th. 9/5/19. That's it. I'm done. I hope you've enjoyed watching that and seeing how you can do those characters slightly different from just drawing straight onto the page, printing it onto a book page. You know, great idea. Love the idea. So, wish I thought of it myself. So I hope you have enjoyed watching that and seeing how you can create those characters differently to just drawing straight onto the page. So if you print out onto a sketch drawing like I've done, onto book text or book paper, and then stick it in and then colour it. Great way if you're not brilliant at drawing or don't want to take that first plunge of doing it on the page. Because I know sometimes the fear of getting it wrong and drawing the wrong thing, you know, it's a killer. It definitely is a killer. So I hope you've enjoyed watching me put that page together. If you have, please remember to give it a thumbs up, share the video with your friends, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, you can do so by clicking the button at the end of the video. All from me for now. I'll see you all again very, very soon. Bye for now. I'd like to say a huge thank you to all of my angels, because without you, these videos would not be possible. Thank you.